Thank you for joining us today. First of all, thanks to the MMA team for assigning me as a moderator today. Today's dialogue is the pivot for strategy. I had the privilege of seeing Indonesian market evolve up close, of seeing in economic digital growing over 20% digitally. Currently, the disruptions is not exception anymore. I have seen businesses here hesitate to wait for perfect clarity. But the winner pivot before disruptions forced their hand. So the question is, are we still waiting for disruptions or are we reading a weak signal and acting early? As we know that Indonesia positions is that we at the crossroad of massive growth, retail, media, and e-commerce. Today, I'm very honored to hear from our two panelists from the different industry who have experienced transformations firsthand. Together with our panelists, we built a decision-making framework you can apply when the ground next shift. Let us hear the pivot for strategy from our panelists. Okay, the questions to Pak Amit and Bu Nuning. In the Indonesian FMCG and digital media sector, disruptions often come from a sudden shift in a consumer's value, whether it's the rise halal certified beauty, whether it's the explosion of social commerce, or the pivot towards sustainability. What is the specific weak signal that you have to differentiate a passing trend from a structured market shift that require a total strategic pivot? To Pak Amit, may you have to share your strategy first? Oh, okay.
Okay. The question is, thank you, Pak Afla. I think the question is very relevant for us leaders and marketing because nowadays when we are so overstimulated, it's very important for us to be able to capture the weak signal that can somehow lead us into a strategic pivot. I think the key in here is how to separate between noise and voice. Yeah, because I think can the clicker, the committee help with the slides? Because nowadays we've got just so many stimulus with the social, with the change in the new media landscape where our consumer they spend 2.5 hours average time in social platform, and then more than 52% TikTok consumer they consume news in the platform. And then now we are also flooded with almost 2 billion subscription on the video streaming. I think these all are the stimulus for us marketer and leader. And more than ever, many of the news are impression are algorithm curated. That somehow it's make capturing the insight is quite difficult for us. So for me, as a leader and marketer, I use 3 filters. The first filter is to really pinpoint, to really differentiate whether it is a real human tension or it is or it is a spike that is boosted by algorithm, because sometimes the algorithm can make the noise or the virality become bigger than it may seem. But a real human tension that persists, it shows us that there are unsolved problems that us as a marketer or a leader might need to answer with a strategic pivot. And to tackle that, we as a team, we are doing social listening quite rigorously. So every Monday we sit together as a team to look into what are the conversation happen across digital. I attend the Pak Ipang Wahid presentation this afternoon. We are talking about data scraping. So when we are talking about social listening is actually the data scraping, how we see all the information, trend, sentiment, and then from that on, leaders and the team, we decide which are the trend that we will tackle into through the communication pivot, or probably something that keep coming or persist, which means that we need to tackle it at a structural approach. Yeah, and then from this social listening, we look into the ecosystem signal, whether it's come into one platform or multiple platform. Because sometimes from trend, it can come across into commerce as well. I think I saw this ring true in the, say for instance, on the health concern on less sugar interest or no added sugar food product interest, where it starts from the conversation among influencer, but then it quickly translates into commerce that push me to change our approach in the product structurally and start involving the R&D and also supply chain into play. And the last one is really how to make this work together with the cross-functional. So to make sure that when we decide this is to pivot, we can move in sync with other cross-functional, so then it can happen quickly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Bu Nuning. How about you, Pak Amit?
So I have a slightly, maybe a different perspective, looking at a more holistic picture. I think you mentioned about halal skincare as trending.
Yeah.
So I would say that if you look at it from October onwards, right, 26, every item sold here has to be halal. Right? So if as a brand I'm positioned on a halal platform, it's no longer a differentiator.
Yes.
Right? So it's not a trend anymore. It's something that's a given. Right? So if I have to survive, I cannot survive on halal platform. So it is about making that change now. Ideally, you should have made the change 6 months ago. You should have pivoted already to a different strategy, move out of a saying I'm the best halal brand or my products are halal, because everybody is going to be the same. So that differentiation is gone. So it is important sometimes that you should be ready to pivot, knowing it's a planned change that's happening. It's not really a trend. It's a planned change that's going to come into the market. So you have to be prepared for it. Right? So that is one part of it. Some of the pivoting has to be done basis knowing this is bound to happen. Right? Second one is more, it's like business of FMCG is not really staples. Staples is like your rice and oil, right, which you don't change. But everything else is in some way trending. So if I look at our business, perfumes, right? Perfumes are not going out of fashion, but the trend is changing. Someday I want fresh. Someday I want, now Arabic perfumes are trending. So it will keep changing, right? Or the best example, Indonesia, I've been here for quite a long time now, is a big fan of everything K, right? Whether it's K-pop, K-food, a lot of it, right? Now, if I today launch a product and say, this is the best Korean noodles in the world, right? I might do very well for 6 months. But if tomorrow the trend changes from Korean noodles to, let's say, Egyptian noodles, then my brand is dead, right? Because I have been too tied up to the trend. But if I go with saying I make the most trending noodles in the world, then I can follow the trend. So if it moves from Korean to something else, I can follow. So it is very important that when you build your strategy itself, you build it that pivot. I think it requires a lot of, it's a strategy part of it, where you build in saying, how big is this trend? Is it scalable, or is it something which can last for a short time? So I should have the pivot to move out of it, without losing relevance as a brand. A very, very basic example I see, because all of us are here from Jakarta. Paddle was trending hugely a year ago. Right? Yeah. Now, so everybody went ahead and opened new courts.
Correct.
Right? And now most of them lie empty. Right? Costs are coming down. So if somebody had done the economics before, you'd have seen that if you are trying to sell a sport at 500,000 an hour, there's a very small percentage of the population in Jakarta who can afford it.
Yeah.
Right? On a regular basis. Once in a while is okay, on a regular basis. And you need regular business to survive. So at 500,000, if so many facilities open up, of course, it did not have such a good future. But because you have put up infrastructure of a glass box, etc., it's very difficult to pivot out. A different thing is trending in, let's say, US. People are using dual-use tennis court and they're using pickleball. Right? So typically, 2 pickleball courts fit in a tennis court. So you can move to either a tennis or pickleball depending on this. You are keeping some flexibility. Tennis has been an evergreen sport. Few people want to play pickleball. Okay, I convert out of my 6 courts, 2 into 4 pickleball courts. But my business is still stable. I'm going with the trend. Right? So those are some of the things that I think one needs to consider, by looking at that whether it is scalable. If it is not scalable, then that trend is difficult to last for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
that would be my
interesting.
perspective.
Thank you so much, Pak Amit, Bu Nuning. That's a very interesting perspective from both of you. I think successful pivot rarely happen overnight. They require organizations to balance foresight with operations executions. So let us go deeper into how its organizations manage that balance internally. This is the specific questions to Pak Amit first. Pak Amit, as we know, Wipro Unza has managed to strong a leaders players in fragrance, right? And also have a successful add male fragrance to the portfolio. The question is, how do you execute the pivot first strategy without becoming a trap by your own supply chains? And also, how do you maintain operational momentum when the pivot requires balancing existing channel and their demands with booming social commerce and its demand itself?
Okay. So maybe if you can support with my slide, the first, somebody can just help, makes my life easier. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, no, it's simple. I think you spoke about male fragrance.
Male fragrance,
right?
yeah.
So, we launched this brand called Romano, which comes basically from, it's very big in Malaysia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and China. And we had dreams of making it into a male grooming brand. Because it is big in, if I go to Vietnam, it's big in male body wash and male shampoo. Right? In Malaysia, it's big in fragrance. In China, also, it's very big as a shampoo and as a body wash. So we also wanted to play. We saw male as an opportunity, and we launched it as a brand to be male grooming. But then we realized here that the male body wash or the male shampoo segment is still very small here, and we are a small company, so we don't have the investment required to change consumer habits. Right? That requires maybe a giant like Unilever, which can spend, which can go after a category and build a category.
Yeah.
Right? For us at our size, the kind of investment required was not. Our expertise was fragrance, and we realized. So we spent a lot of money actually on shampoo. Building, setting up sachets, setting up a separate sales team to go and sell shampoos in the smaller stores. So we put up a lot of effort. We put in a lot of effort, but we did not get the throughput or the results that we were expecting. Also, because these are small categories for big players like, Wings with their brand Zinc or Unilever with Clear Men. So there was not, or Sarai is sitting here, so whether it's Head and Shoulders Men, it is not a big part of their overall portfolio. So the amount of investment going in was not much. So not much traction was there in this category. But we realized fragrance is the business we knew. So we completely pivoted to saying, we will let go of shampoos. We took back a lot of market returns of shampoo and body wash from the market, but we got results in Romano, and we said completely we pivoted towards saying we will build fragrance. Okay. We were the most premium fragrance in the mass market at that point of time. We continue to be still, and that is where we completely shifted, and today we have in the premium market almost a 20% market share with Romano, and our focus is completely now how we can give and develop fragrances more. Fragrance is a booming category here, colognes and fragrances. So our objective now is completely pivoted towards how we can keep up with that trend. So instead of trying to have a trend of male grooming, completely pivoting to male fragrances and saying how we can stay with the trend. So build a platform of Romano being a high-end and very good fragrance, but still keep with the trend in terms of the fragrance profile, the kind of offering, fragrance dosages, etc., and keep pace with that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So you keep doing the research actually every month.
Yeah, so that's a pivot. Second one I would like to talk, if you go to the next slide, is about e-commerce. I think this is something that we have learned the hard way after spending a lot of money over the last 2 to 3 years. And what we have realized is, and which happens in most multi-brand companies, is that each brand manager allocates a certain amount of money to each, let's say, for e-commerce.
Yeah.
So what the e-commerce team was trying to do was build all brands, right? So if I have Romano, I have Vitalis, I have Sumbarayu, I have Safi. So there was some certain amount of money allocated to each brand depending on their budget, and the e-commerce team was trying to build the business. And we were getting success, but not to the extent that we wanted. The pivot that we did was let's say about 3 to 4 months ago was we just picked up saying these are the 3 or 4 SKUs which are working for us, and we have pivoted all our spending into that.
Okay.
So my business has actually become 3 times. In the last, if I look at my brand Vitalis, where we have done this, my brand is now 3x in 3 months' time. Just by focusing on the top selling 4 SKUs. So we have completely stopped all spending. And when I mean spending, it means everything. My videos that I make, the affiliates that I talk to, what my live does, everything I have moved on to these 4 SKUs. And my business has become 3x. The advantage of that is that is bringing in people onto my store. And then they're also exploring other things. Right? The way, it's like your loss leader, the concept historically we used to study in marketing was called loss leader, where Toys R Us used to put their most selling toys right at the back of the lowest price at the back of the store so that you walk through the entire store. It was something like that, while you don't navigate the store, but you bring audience, then they try to evaluate, oh, Vitalis, I bought this, it was nice. Let me try something else. Right? And I think that has helped grow the overall business. And I think that was a big pivot, I think, which has been, which has really helped us to move from, our share of e-commerce to go up significantly now. So on a brand like Vitalis, which is a very old traditional brand available in general trade, very widely distributed, we have almost gone to almost a 10% in terms of contribution of e-commerce. We used to be about 1.5-2% earlier. And I think that's another way of looking at it, how we're able to pivot, looking at what is working.
Yeah. Okay, Thank you so much for sharing. This is very insightful, Pak. Okay, I move to Bu Nuning. Bu Nuning, as we know, that Unilever is one of the led by the FMCG industry, specifically the food industry, right? Consumer goods are deeply personal and often slow to change until suddenly they shift at once. The question is, how Unilever leverage data-driven foresight to pivot product portfolios or media strategy ahead of dietary or ethical trends, and equally important, how do you ensure that the supply chains remain agile to support marketing-led pivot?
Okay, so that's very true that in food industry, habit doesn't change overnight because we are talking about ritual, we are talking about palettes and flavors, which it takes sometimes years even to change, yeah. But we can actually capture the trend early, so then we can anticipate it before it's too late. So can you help with the slides? So. Yeah. Oh, already here. I think it's lagging big. Yeah, so I think with I mentioned the importance of social listening because social listening really reveal the behavior signal even before the purchase. I think this rings true in the food industry. If we keep listening, sometimes we see the evolution of the habit before we need to be panic on how to react because we saw a very strong habit where 50% of consumers, they are now researching their product in social platform. The discovery of in the food industry back then, consumer will look at the recipe and then think of the product that is fit in. But nowadays is the other way around. They look at the product and then they just figure out what is happening in the social to use the product. So they get inspired with the research that they did. And 60% that is interact in the social, they got influence. And what we believe is that companies that is using social listening effectively are more likely to outperform financially. Yeah. So we use this as part of the data-driven foresighting combined with future food foresight and other data points such as Kantar and Nielsen. So then from there on, we can make a very informed decision on how we want to respond. And second point is how to respond fast. Sometimes we put the framework marketing and media first. This is where the response, the idea is being tested quickly before we actually moving into a bigger scale, which is portfolio that will give an implication on how to work together with R&D and supply chain. So throughout the process, we try to involve R&D and supply chain early, so then we don't catch the tail when we really want to respond with the real tension.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Bu Nuning. It's very insightful. Last but not least, let's move to another session. Actually, this is questions applied to all panelists. Pivoting requires a high degree of organization's courage. Looking ahead in the futures, what do you think will be the single biggest internal barrier to pivoting first within your organizations, and what is one leadership behavior you consider absolutely non-negotiable to overcome it? Pak Amit, may you share your...
Okay, I think pivot, what does pivot mean? Pivot means that you are doing something, it is not working all that well, and you change.
Yeah.
Right? So the most important thing, and the company which will win, or the individual or the company which will win, is the one which quickly accepts it is not working and moves on.
Yes.
I think the most critical part is not getting attached to the idea, oh, this is my boss's idea, this is my idea, and you get stuck to it, saying, I know I put in multiple rounds to make it happen, to make it correct. I think that will delay you. You will miss out. So I think quickly to figure out, oh, this is something I'm trying. It's not working for me. Let's move on.
Yep.
So you want to call it pivot first. Internally, we call it fast fail strategy. Right? You quickly learn you are failing, move on to something else. Right? Without really committing too much resources.
Correct. Okay. Thank you, Pak. How about you, Bu Nuning?
Yeah, I think it's almost similar. The key barrier for us is we tend to look for certainty, which when it comes to pivot, we really need to be brave to feel uncomfortable. Yeah. Therefore, us, I think what is very important in the organization is psychological safety, where we are allowed to surface the weak signal, or sometimes the insight that is not yet strong, but it persistently coming. And then we as a leader need to model that behavior as well, that pivot is actually not a failure. It's actually a necessary in order to adapt in this keep evolving landscape.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Bu Nuning. I think, thank you for panelists. I think that I will move to the Q&A sessions. Let me open for 2 questions as of now. Is there anyone to ask from the delegates? Is there? Somebody? I can see it. Oh, it's behind. Okay. Can you introduce yourself? Huh? Sound is not there.
Check. Hi everyone, myself Ketan. I'm from Hybrid itself. So my question is, from if we have this conversation again in next 3 years, what do you think that one aspect is which is being underestimated by business that can be the next pivot point?
Okay, thank you. This is questions for all panelists. Yeah, Pak Amit, maybe you can share.
So if you look at it, 3 years down the line, even I would not know. But maybe it's not TikTok and something else, right? So businesses are doing a pivot, with TikTok. Now, if you go and talk to all the, for example, Shopee or TikTok have increased their costs significantly in terms of transaction cost. There could be somebody else coming up with a lower price model. Maybe AI enables something else, right? So anything could happen. So as a business, you have to be, I think 3 years nowadays in today's world is actually quite a long timeline. So it is about being ready for the next 3 months to 6 months, what you can, how you can pivot and change. So it's about, I think what she spoke about, social listening, but also not just the regular social, but everything else that is happening, what people are talking about, where are they coming from, what is the source. Right? I think that becomes critical.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when the problems show up again in the next 3 years, sometimes the tension remains true, but the context has changed. That's where the context need to evolve. Sometimes it's about how we approach it, because probably the media has changed or the consumer need has changed. I can take example probably from my experience in home care, when back then consumer tension is they really need clean clothes. But clean clothes back then, the definition is free from dirt. And as the economic development getting better, the new clean cloth for consumer is no longer the dirt, but type of stain that you got it when you are in the school or when you mess up coffee in the office. So I think the needs stay the same, but then the context is different. And then how we answer the context is also different because nowadays probably we will need something that is more into social, more into culture, and also back with the science because now consumer can research it. They don't rely on what the marketer says, but they also will do their own sense check to make sure whether the offering is true or not. That's my take.
Okay, thank you, Pamit, Bu Nuning. I open for 1 or 2 questions more. Maybe someone from delegates want to ask questions. No? Okay. Is there any?
I'll just add one thing. I think a lot of us were old like us, right? We used to swear by David Ogilvy. Right? We used to started saying that the consumer is not a moron, she's your wife. Right? That's one of the very famous ones. So if I look to today's world, what is the future trend is actually in front of us. You go to and speak to your marketing intern what they're doing. Right? That's your future. Right? So if I today ask here most of the people, which is the most trending Indonesian restaurant, all of us will go to Google and search. You ask a marketing intern, they will go to TikTok and search. They don't search on Google anymore. Right? So those are some of the trends and pivot that you can do. That's where the future is going to be. They hardly go to Google now. They go to TikTok and search. Right? So that is the change. So if we have to talk to the younger generation, I have to go to TikTok. I cannot be doing a Google SEO. I have to do a TikTok SEO. Yeah. Right? So those are, I think, some trends that one can pick up, just like you're picking up from it was the wife. Here it is now you're the youngest member in your team who will tell you what's going to happen 6 months from now.
Okay, thank you. I think that we close for the Q&A since the time is limit. Let me wrap up this dialogue basically. I think it's quite clear from discussion today, disruptions is no longer an occasional event. It has become the operating environment itself. The companies that will lead the next decade to become the biggest companies or even the most established one, they can change early, most established, and making decision faster and pivot without losing clarity of purpose. Today, we are talking about the weak signal, organization agility, leadership, mindset, AI, program ecosystem, retail media, and how market in Indonesia are evolving incredible speed. But if I have to summarize take one line, the future belongs to leadership who are willing to move before certainty arrive. Data signal, consumer behavior, media consumption are changing in real time and increasingly. But business cannot afford quarterly reactions to daily shift. I hope today's dialogue is give not just idea, but framework to questions, assumptions faster, test smarter, collaborator deeper, and pivot earlier. Thank you for wonderful panelists, and thank you so much for all delegates. Yeah.
Thank you very much also to our moderator, Mr. Afla Zulfahmi.